evening, guys. It's me, Born for such a time. We're in our midnight armchair again. We call it that because this is my chair that I do my research in around midnight when the house is quiet. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to get back into demonic oppression and the Christian. And we have our blankie. We need our blankie. And we have part 3. So let's get into it and see what we can discover tonight. I promised tonight that we'd be talking about what do evil spirits do. And again, we said part 3. I took a break between part 2 and part 3 to do the evil spirit of fear. And it was quite interesting. It turned into a 2-part study. And so I figured that it kind of deserved its own section. And so now we're back to part 3 of our original study, which was demonic oppression and the Christian. What do evil spirits do? There are good spirits and bad spirits, as some angels fell from heaven with Satan, and others chose to stay and serve at the hand of the Lord. All are subservient to God, and it is He who has final say in their actions and destinies. Many of these have what we will call function names. I found it interesting to learn in some of the scriptures that I'm going to share with you that we knew that God could set boundaries on the evil spirits. I did not know that He also utilizes them in the lives of people who are destroying themselves. And well, I don't want to blow the surprise. I'll read it to you, but this kind of taught me a few things I did not know. Many of these have what we will call function names, and I learned that, and I've heard this before, but I was able to pin this down in this study, that evil spirits have particular things that they're very capable at. Like we have trades, we have degrees that we're good at. Some are accountants, maybe others are mathematicians or professors. Evil spirits have particular things that they're really good at, and some may be to cause fear, like we learned in the spirit of fear, or good at a spirit of lying. And so we're really going to learn some things here tonight that we maybe didn't know. I know I learned some things about evil spirits. If we have areas of sin in our lives or doorways of weakness and indulgence, these evil spirits will seek out these areas to stick their crowbars in and start prying. 1 Samuel 16:14. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit sent of the Lord, see, here's what we're talking about, an evil spirit sent of the Lord, vexed him. The wicked spirits are at God's commandment to execute his will against the wicked. 2 Chronicles 18:19. And the Lord said, Who shall persuade Ahab, king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one spake and said thus, and another said that. This was up in heaven. There was a big discussion going on with the spirits around God. Then there came forth a spirit, and stood before the Lord, and said, I will persuade him. And the Lord said unto him, Wherein? I can picture this. How? How are you going to do that? I had never somehow seen this scripture before. I know a recent study we did, I was like, this is a new scripture to me. It's fascinating. I guess we've learned that the Bible is living, and it seems to me that it's like chess, a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. You can think that you've read through the Bible in a year, and you're still going to find things that you just don't remember. Okay, so God said to the Spirit, okay, how are you going to do this? And the Spirit said, well, I will go out and be a false spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Thou shalt persuade, and shalt also prevail. Go forth and do so. So he gave this spirit permission to enact this action that he had come up with. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a false spirit in the mouth of these thy prophets, and the Lord hath determined evil against thee. The prophets who are not of God, there is a way that you can discover how to discern if they're of God. There are scriptures about that. That might make another good study. But the things that they foresee will not come true, and that is one way of telling that they're a false prophet, And we have many of those in the movement right now, I have seen, who are just grifting off of the hopes of people, but they have a false spirit in their mouth. And you can often pick up on it if you pray for discernment and you begin to listen and watch. And does it ring true with the things you know about God? And a lot of times it just brings glory to them, and it will be kind of alluding to this and to that, but there's nothing you can ever pin them on. And if there is, it often won't happen. And I'm not saying there aren't real prophets of God, but often those people will not tell you, I'm a prophet, hit the subscribe button and send money in. Okay. Matthew Poole's commentary on Numbers 5:14 states, and we're going to talk about the spirit of jealousy first. And he was stating that the spirit of jealousy, or a strong opinion or suggestion or inward motion of that kind, whether from a good or evil spirit, and this was the point that I wanted to make, that there are good spirits that influence us and there are bad spirits that influence us, and they have these function names. We can see that both good and evil spirits work in our world and in our minds to influence for ill or for our aid. And I wanted to give a few scriptures here as we go, which are the ones we talked about, the king of Israel. Now we're going to talk about, much of what we will focus on is going to be the function names of evil spirits and how to arm ourselves against them. But it is very heartening to start with the good ones who seek to help us. Let's start with the good news, and then we'll move into the not so pleasant news. The spirit of wisdom, Isaiah 11:2. Function names again of these spirits. Here's the spirit of wisdom. This is his job. And the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him. And that's capitalized. Spirit of the Lord. They said whenever the S is capitalized, you're always talking about the spirit of the Lord. Sometimes it will be a spirit that is also from the Lord, but it doesn't have to be capitalized. But every time it is the spirit of the Lord. And the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and strength, the spirit of knowledge, and of the fear of the Lord. It is my understanding that spirits often work in pairs, and we can see this here. Wisdom with understanding, counsel with strength, and certainly we can make the case for knowledge working with the fear of the Lord. On the other hand, we know that fear and ignorance go hand in hand, as we have seen in the panic in the world around us. So we have Satan will often send fear with ignorance. Let's tell them that this is the way it's going to be, and then we can scare them into doing the thing that we want and down that cattle chute. We all know where the cattle chute ends. So fear and ignorance work together, kind of like a team, a SWAT team. Now we will take a look at some of the evil spirits and the work that they do in our lives. I have an entire podcast, like I said earlier, devoted to the spirit of fear, so I'm not going to go over that one again. That one was 2 sections, so you can go there for more info on that. And you can find it on Rumble and YouTube and Odyssey.com and also Substack. And they're all under either Born for Such a Time or Born for Such Time. And you can also find me on Truth Social at Born for Such a Time if you want to come and chat with me. I'd love to talk to you guys. Okay, the spirit of jealousy. Here's our first foray into the function names of the spirits. Numbers 5:14. If he be moved with a jealous mind, so that he is jealous over his wife, which is defiled, or if he have a jealous mind, so that he is jealous over his wife, which is not defiled. Hebrew, if the spirit of jealousy come upon him. So now we know we have the spirit of jealousy. So what is it? Jealousy or envy is desiring those things that belong to someone else. What I wanted to do here was to arm you to know that these spirits have function names, and they have actions that they do to influence our lives. And we may think it's something that we're thinking or that we're doing, or it's a habit of ours. We can discover that these are often evil spirits that are trying to influence us into these behaviors. So we're going to learn to recognize them, call them out, call them for what they are, and then we're going to learn how to defeat them and move them on out of our lives. Often just knowing what's wrong is half the battle. Okay, so jealousy and envy, desiring those things that belong to someone else. We must learn to move forward with a heart of celebration over the victories and blessings of others. When people are jealous, they're angry at that person and they want what they have and they don't want them to be happy. And every time they get something, they get more angry and they want what that person has. And it can turn into anger and hate and murder eventually. It doesn't even matter that they can't get the thing that person has, they just don't want them to have it. It's really important that we celebrate the victories and blessings of others. What a wonderful thing it is to have friends who are happy when something good happens to you. You want to keep those people around. Well, they are confident and peaceful that God's taking care of them and they don't need the things you have. They're happy that you have them. That's a true friend. Satan would like you to focus on who you aren't and what you don't possess. Dwell on instead seeing yourselves through God's eyes and what he considers success. Now, this is interesting. The world will often tell you, oh, success is material possessions or uh, influence or money or power or prestige or well, you have this car and you have that spouse and you have this diamond ring. And God does not consider those successful. That is often what is given to evil people of the world who seek it to keep them bound and thinking they're happy and to the very end, and they don't change their lives, and then they get to their reward and they can't take it with them. Okay, so we want to see success through God's eyes. This is going to keep us from being jealous of other people because we have everything we need. It is God's pleasure to give you the kingdom, and he made you to be yourself. Realize that he gave gifts and talents to you that are yours alone and are used to fulfill the purpose he has for your life. Okay, next spirit. Spirit of lying. 2 Chronicles 18:22. Now therefore behold, the Lord hath put a false spirit in the mouth of these thy prophets, and the Lord hath determined evil against thee, to them that will not believe the truth. Will not believe the truth. God sendeth strong delusion that they should believe lies. There it is again. God using the evil spirits with people who refuse to believe the truth. We've all met them. And God sends strong delusion that they should believe lies. Remember that the serpent was subtle, and those things that he tells you about your future, worth, calling, and relationships are always lies. He will accuse you of not being good enough and of being a failure in an attempt to bind you in shame and regret, and will introduce condemning thoughts of being separated from the grace and mercy of God, like Satan is. He's condemned, he's separated from the grace and mercy of God, but you're not. He's probably actually jealous of you and lying to you, and he wants to get you off, and because you won't believe truth, you might fall for his lies. He will not want you to see yourself through God's eyes, but will tell you that you're weak and unworthy of love. When this happens to you, remind yourselves that you are chosen by God, beloved of him, and empowered by his Spirit. Chosen, loved, and empowered. Remember Power, Love, and a Sound Mind from the Spirit of Fear podcast? A lot of this, you can use the same tactics on a lot of these. Guard your hearts when the old enemy comes knocking as a lying spirit. Close those doors of self-deprecation, self-deception, and unbelief in your life. Focus on the truth of God as revealed in his word. Remind yourselves of his promises until all lies are silenced by the truth of God. So instead of jealousy, we kind of had gratitude, and instead of lies, we have truth. Speak God's truth to the lies of the enemy. Say them out loud. Pray that God will rebuke the lies of the devil, and then speak truth to yourself. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. God will never fail me nor forsake me. When thoughts seek to roost in your mind, run them through the gate. Is this true? Now the familiar spirits. This one's a little bit short. We could go into great detail about this one, but I kind of wanted to warn you about them. It's not sort of classic like the rest of them where these things come in: lying, jealousy, um, heaviness, this sorts of thing. This is the familiar spirits. And many of you may have kind of wondered, well, what's going on when people go to a card reader or a palm reader or a soothsayer or a fortune teller? Why do they seem to know about Uncle Bill? Well, Uncle Bill had brass buttons and he mentioned the brass buttons, so it's got to be Uncle Bill, right? It is not Uncle Bill. It is appointed unto man but once to die and then the judgment. Uncle Bill is not roaming around in the attic and showing up for the fortune teller. Okay, 1 Samuel 28:7. Then said Saul unto his servants, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and ask of her. And his servants said to him, Behold, there is a woman at Endor that hath a familiar spirit. This type of spirit is very familiar with you and your family, hence the term familiar spirit, as they usually travel with your ancestry down through the generations. Astrology, palm readers, tarot card readers all take counsel with these spirits when you go to them, opening doorways via the occult. No want to go there. Don't open a doorway to the occult. No faster way to have demonic oppression in your life than curiosity into Satan and his power and his occult mysticism. Okay, next one, spirit of heaviness, Isaiah 61:3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, and to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of gladness for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. I noticed that in the scriptures, when it talks about the spirit of something, it gives you a clue as to what the alternative is, or the other side of it. So we had lies and truth, we had jealousy and gratitude, now we have heaviness and praise. When suffering hardship and adversity, God's people may weep, feel isolated, and be tempted to sin. The spirit of heaviness are intensely negative feelings, leading to challenges to our faith in and knowledge of God. Heaviness can result from habitual sins, perpetual losses, or continuing burdens. It seems that the continual dripping, the thing that just goes on and on and on and wears you down, can become a spirit of heaviness. When we feel heavy, we must lighten our load with praise to God, which will reconnect us to the source of all that is good in our lives. As we ponder the magnitude of our suffering, we must be careful not to lose sight of the goodness of God, resulting in doubt and lost faith, which, if you lose faith and you begin to doubt, it just makes it harder to climb back up out of that, and you've got to regain that to struggle your way back up out. The antidotes are the spirits of gratitude, and you can look these verses up if you want. We won't take the time, but I wanted you to have them. Spirit of gratitude, 1 Thessalonians 5:18, patience, Isaiah 40:31, and love, 1 John 4:11. The spirit of heaviness will result in spiritual weakness and bitterness, causing you to be alone and angry with the world and God. But love will leave us strong, open, and of service to God and others. Now, the perverse spirit. This one's kind of disgusting, but we're going to have to read about him anyway. We see him in the world around us, particularly right now, with all of the aberrant behaviors and the indulgences people are getting themselves into and thinking it's okay and normal and it's not hurting them, and it is very much hurting them, and it's very much a plan against them. Isaiah 19:14. The Lord hath mingled among them the spirits of errors, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man erreth in his vomit. Described as a complete disregard for God and his principles, a perverse spirit is contrary. You've all known a contrary person. It's a bad attitude that is unwilling to accept orders or advice. It's like they have do the opposite of what they should disease, and it doesn't matter. You could have said, Okay, we need to open the red door. Oh, I'm going to open the black one. Okay, next time. We need to open the black door. Oh, I'm going to open the red one. You just, what? That is the spirit of perverseness. It's contrary. It's wayward, meaning disinclined to follow authority or be controlled. I think rebellion might be another good word for this. The following are hallmarks of a perverse spirit. Number one, a growing interest in sexual immorality and aberrant sexual behaviors. Number two, an increased tolerance for violence, death, and gore. You can see that Hollywood is attempting to install a perverse spirit in your house. I'm not talking about becoming legalistic and you can't play any movies in your house, but you have to be careful that you don't become inured to this, calloused. Oh, it doesn't bother me, and you watch worse and worse and worse things, and the spirit in your house degrades, and you're gonna start to feel kind of sullied and unusual, like Captain Jack said. All right, number three, a feeling of powerlessness overcome by a lust for control and domination. Four, rebellion and defiance against authority. Five, a chaotic, lawless mind. Six, seeking out occult, dark, and evil practices. Seven, hatred of women and objectification of them as sexual objects. A lot of these, I did a study one time because the local library was trying to give the computers to be allowed to have pornography on them for the sex offenders in the library. I know it was crazy, but so I did a study to take to them to prove that serial killers started out with they started out oftentimes with cruelty to animals, pornography, uh, hatred against women. They will start with small violence and it gets worse. Like we said, the increased tolerance for violence, death, and gore. And then it gets worse and worse and worse. And that was the steps for a serial killer. So you can see that that is a perverse spirit. The following are doorways for a perverse spirit. Open the doorway, let the thing in. So when you do these things, they can begin to allow a satanic influence to come in to your home and your life. Playing violent, sexually explicit video games for hours at a time. Number two, watching movies containing nudity, sex scenes, or murder scenes. And they always want to put that together. They want to put sex and violence together, and that is not by accident. Number three, listening to music containing lyrics that talk about sexual acts. Matthew 6:22-24 says, "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness?" We like to see people face to face. We like to look into their eyes. We like to know what we're seeing. We can pick up a lot from that. And when we meet someone and they have a limpy handshake and they look down and they won't look us in the eyes, we think, what are you hiding? It's because of things like this. The eyes are the light into the body and to the soul. All right. Other doorways for a perverse spirit. Dysfunctional childhood upbringing. This is not your fault. A lot of these things may not be your fault. They may be things that were in your home. But you need to be cleansed of these and renew your mind and change your habits and do positive things in your life. Number one, parents in the home. This is dysfunctional childhood upbringing. Number one, parents in the home exposing their kids to magazines or videos that contain nudity or sexual acts. Number two, overhearing peer conversations about perverted behaviors. Be careful who your kids are spending time with. Check their phones, check their computers, listen to their conversations because they're going to want to fit in with the group and they're going to be listening to their friends. And if their friends have a lot of this stuff in their home, it's a way that it can access your child, and once it's in there, it's very hard to get it out. Number 3, molestation or rape. Number 4, happening upon images of nudity or pornography online. Also, occult interests or activities, like we talked about. Now, these might surprise you. Yoga and its meditation. There are a lot of evil spirits associated with yoga and the meditation. You should really look into that. Number 2, horoscopes. Number 3, Ouija boards. We talked about Ouija boards in, I think it was demonic oppression and the Christian number 1. I told a really good story. You'll want to catch that. 4, crystals, candles, rituals. Number 5, dream catchers. And I'm not talking about decorative keychains, but the superstitious belief that that actually works. 6, tarot cards. 7, palm reading. This could go on. There are so many funnels for occult behavior, and it can catch you with something very simple. It can be as simple as the little magic 8-ball that you swish around. Oh, will Billy be my boyfriend? Yes. Oh, and then you choose your job by it, and then you begin to believe that the thing is telling you the truth, and it can lead, it's a gateway into deeper things. Some of these things are just thought to be games, like Ouija boards, are not. All right, these behaviors can be ceased and renounced, renewing the spirit and mind. Here's a good prayer for you. Father, I ask for your help in overcoming the strongholds of perversion in my life. Please help me to be pure in thought, word, and deed. Close all doorways that I have opened in my life by giving in to these things, and take back the ground that I have given over to Satan by indulging in these sinful behaviors. Please forgive me. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Spirit of whoredom. I didn't know what this one was. I looked it up, and I thought, that is not what I would have thought. Hosea 4:12. My people ask counsel at their stocks, and their staff teacheth them. For the spirit of fornications hath caused them to err, and they have gone a whoring from under their God. The spirit of whoredom, or the spirit of fleshly pursuits. It kind of reminds me of that old cautionary tale about the town of Vanity Fair. And the young people would go there, and they wouldn't come out, and they would ruin themselves in every kind of fleshly pursuit until there was nothing left of them, and they were completely depraved. The spirit of whoredom. My niece always teases me because I use the term, it's a bacchanalian orgy, where it's just too much, too much, too indulgent, too indulgent. Okay. It is a metaphor used in the Bible to describe the actions and thinking of those who have left off following God and are seeking carnal, worldly pleasures and desires. This wholesale pursuit of worldly pleasure leads to a lack of discernment and wisdom, leading to dullness of the mind and senses. We all know public figures that we've watched, and we think, my goodness, their one candle that they had left is going out. What is going on? There's this dullness, and the sentences don't make any sense, and the word salad, and the stumbling, and the who are you, and very often this is as a result of sexual immorality. And if you consider the few that come to the top of your mind, wink wink, don't we know that they were involved in aberrant sexual behaviors? There you go. Hosea 4:11. Whoredom and wine and new wine take away their heart. The footnotes on this: in giving themselves to pleasures, they become like brute beasts. Too much of a good thing is too much. Tightly tied into the sin of idolatry, or the worship of false gods, it is defined as the pursuit of worldly possessions, power, and pleasure, leading to spiritual and moral bankruptcy, deception, gross darkness, and sin. Proverbs 5:3-4. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is more soft than oil. But the end of her is bitter as wormwood, and sharp as a two-edged sword. When we are consumed by our desires and pursue them at all costs, we become blinded to the truth, and our spiritual eyes become darkened. This is how the spirit of whoredom leads to deception. Moreover, the pursuit of worldly pleasures and desires often leads to deeper sin and immorality. Just gets worse. As people indulge in their desires, they become more and more desensitized to the things of God and more accepting of sin. The small sins turn into bigger sins, which turn into major sins, and then pretty soon you're very bound and it's hard to get back. As people indulge in their desires, we read that, this can lead to a downward spiral of darkness and immorality. In the book of Revelation, the city of Babylon is described as a symbol of the spirit of whoredom. We must in turn and pursue, this is a way out, a faithful and devoted relationship with God as he considers us his bride. Spirit of infirmity. Now this one's very interesting. Luke 13:11. I read a story one time, Neil T. Anderson, who wrote The Bondage Breaker, and he's in the spiritual deliverance ministry. And he said a girl came to him one time and she believed that she had multiple sclerosis, and some of her symptoms did seem to fit. But he said, well, when did this start? And he could tell that she had some satanic oppression in her life. She'd shared a lot of things with him. And she said, well, I thought that I would like to be like Paul and be very, and be almost like a martyr and be very godly. And so I asked for the thorn in the flesh. And he said, you did what? And she says, and that's when my symptoms started. So he led her through the steps to freedom that he offers, and the symptoms were gone, completely gone. They disappeared from that day. It was an evil spirit of infirmity. Now, you got to be very careful with this because there are mental illnesses, but there are also spiritual illnesses. And wouldn't it be wonderful if some emotional things could be cleared up, some mental things could be cleared up, some physical things could be cleared up by removing the influence of evil. Luke 13:11. And behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years, a spirit of infirmity 18 years, and was bowed together, and could not lift herself up in any wise, troubled with a disease which Satan brought. There it is. It's in Scripture. We believe it. This spirit oppresses the body, mind, and soul, and is a manifestation of evil, having the capability to cause illness, physical and mental anguish, and emotional distress. The term infirmity is mentioned frequently in the Bible, referring to physical disabilities and sickness. Those oppressed by this spirit may experience hopelessness, discouragement, and a feeling of being powerless. If this continues for any length of time unchecked, a person can lose faith and give up on God. Infirmity is not the same as physical illness, but is a demonic affliction that can only be overcome through the power of God via prayer, faith, scripture, and spiritual warfare. Recognizing the work of the spirit of infirmity as a spiritual stronghold needing to be broken will help the oppressed to experience true freedom and healing. I remember reading a story about a blind woman who thought she had multiple personalities, which I think a lot of times are demonic possessions. She was blind, and one of her personalities could see. Now, if she's physically incapable of sight, but something within her can see, we have a spirit of infirmity going on. Recognizing the work, yes, needing to be broken, freedom and healing. Okay, here's the steps. Identify the symptoms of infirmity in your life, including physical affliction, mental anguish, and emotional distress. And they can come from traumas. And some of those areas of perverse spirit could bring emotional and mental trauma to a person, especially the children growing up in that home. Number 1, seek help from other Christians for support, prayer, and guidance through the healing process. Number 2, pray for God's healing power to break the stronghold of infirmity over your life. 3, meditate on healing and deliverance scriptures. And I'm going to give you 2, but there's a lot of them. Psalm 103, 2 to 3, and James 5, 14 to 15. Number 4, seek the help of someone who is called and experienced in deliverance ministry. You see a lot of times these Catholic priests that are on the movies and they can't do anything and they fling holy water around and they get thrown out. People who are going to do an actual deliverance ministry, it's a calling and they're experienced and they're very capable at it, and they will be able to come and help you. Number 5, trust in God's power to overcome all things, including the spirit of infirmity, and never give up. That's going to be the end of this part. We're going to move on to number 4, and I think I'm going to have a 5th one, but I really wanted to identify these for you because there are more of them. There are many more of them. These were the big ones that showed up, and if any of these seem to fit you, realize that you can be freed and cleansed. And in part 4, we're going to read about more of them, and then in part 5, I might put the 2 together, we're going to learn how to rid ourselves of the oppression of demonic influence in the life of a Christian. Thank you so much for joining me again, Born for Such a Time, in my midnight armchair, and it's been a real pleasure spending time